friends, this is Lynette. Today I am providing for you a quick behind-the-scenes look at the creative processes Lyrical Opera Theater engages in when creating scenery. And right now, it is for the scenery of our September 2024 production, Carmen. It always helps to know the background story of the opera you're producing, so the first thing I did was to read the book Carmen by Prosper Mérimée. The next thing was to look at what the Carmen music score describes for each act so I could get an overall understanding. Here are the descriptions. Act 1. A square in Seville. On the right, the door of the tobacco factory. At the back, a real bridge. On the left, a guardhouse. When the curtain rises, Corporal Morales and the soldiers are discovered grouped in front of the guardhouse. People are coming and going on the square. More of a description. The scene of the opera is Seville around the time 1820. Act 2. Lilas Pastias Inn. It plays in a suburban resort of smugglers. Act 3. A wild spot in the mountains. The band is assembled within a wild mountain gorge. Act 4. A square in Seville. At the back, the walls of the ancient amphitheater in which the bullfights are held. The entrance to the latter is closed by a long awning. Lyrical Opera Theater always has some goals and parameters in mind when it comes to the scenery. We aim to keep our ticket prices low for our patrons by minimizing costs in every way possible, yet produce beautiful operas with spectacular scenery. We aim to produce scenery that will not end up in a huge garbage dump after we strike it, and so we create pieces that can be folded up and stored easily and compactly. We create scenery that is easy to put up and take down, cutting down on how many stagehands we need and how much they will be involved. Scenery pieces like this also vastly reduce the amount of time we must rent a venue, making it days instead of weeks when we would otherwise be building a set. Our sets can generally be put up in about 3 hours and taken down in an hour and a half. Our entire set usually fits into the back of a 5x8 trailer. We want our audiences to understand what is happening by providing projected supertitles, so we use a big projection screen for our primary scenery piece. This once again cuts down on scenery and storage costs. Keeping all that in mind, I contemplate how a production can have beautiful scenery that fits the opera's descriptions combined with Lyrical Opera Theater's parameters. Here is how it comes together. The scenery legs. These are the pieces that are hung on the battens, downstage from the projection screen. I come up with an overall look that can apply to as many scenes as possible to reduce scenery costs, storage costs, and work for stagehands. For Carmen, I decided to go with archways, since they seem to be an architectural theme in Seville, Spain. I used the Puente Nueve Ronda arches in Seville, Spain, and using this photo came up with these legs. They will look like this on stage. They are sent off to be printed on heavy knit fabric that is wrinkle resistant yet lightweight, that can easily fold down to be stored into small boxes. Once again, Act 1 is described as a square in Seville. On the right, the door of the tobacco factory. At the back, a real bridge. On the left, a guardhouse. When the curtain rises, Corporal Morales and the soldiers are discovered grouped in front of the guardhouse. People are coming and going on the square. The scene of the opera is Seville around the time 1820. I scoured the internet for pictures that fit the description, searching for scenery that is from actual locations that had the correct angles to work for our projections. In this case, the Royal Tobacco Factory building still exists in Seville, Spain. Here are pictures of it. I edited the photos considering colors that look good when they are projected and on stage, and came up with this. Act 2 is described as Lilas Pastias Inn. It plays in a suburban resort of smugglers. I looked around for Spanish taverns, considering what the interior of an old inn might look like in 1820, and finally combined this photo with another archway photo, coming up with this. Act 3 is a wild spot in the mountains. The band is assembled within a wild mountain gorge. Fortunately, the Puente Nuevo Ronda arches used for the leg archways have a backside to them that is a mountain gorge. Here are photos of it. I had to eliminate the water since we cannot have a river running down the middle of the stage, and came up with this. I took out the people and the sky so I could put any type of sky I needed, which in this case was sunset to night. I added a moon using a brush tool. Act 4 is described as a square in Seville. At the back, the walls of an ancient amphitheater in which the bullfights are held. The entrance to the latter is closed by a long awning. I searched Spain for bullfighting arenas that look ancient and that fit with the legs, and found one in Valencia, a Spanish town that is northeast from Seville. I found an excellent photo that was too narrow since I work with an aspect ratio of 16:9. I had to combine it with something else and found this area in Seville that I believed could work. I had to edit out the people, then combine the two photos to come up with this. When I had all the scenery designed, it was time to put it into Adobe Premiere Pro to make the videos we use in the projections. Here is how that works. The first thing I do is put all the music files and scenery files I use into this area. I then click on whichever file I want on the timeline and drag it down to the timeline in either the audio or video section. I then drag the scenery pictures I created into the video section. I drag the supertitle screen onto the timeline. Then I add the supertitles, translating them into this libretto as I go along. I create them as a title, then carefully drag them down onto the timeline, matching them up with where they belong in the music. This is how it looks when I've completed a video in the timeline. Next, I go to the File menu and drop down to Export. I scroll over to Media and click on it. A window opens up and I export the file as a video. Those are the basics of how we create scenery at Lyrical Opera Theater. We hope you join us for Carmen, taking place September 7, 11, 13, and 15, 2024, at the gorgeous Mid-Valley Performing Arts Center in Taylorsville, Utah.